Okay, hello y'all. Okay, this is the one question where I don't really fully understand why, but I'm gonna try and explain. Alright. So we have number 3. So again we have 1, 2, and 3. Right, where A of n for number 1 is 2 things. It's 8 over 2n, and it's also negative 1 over 3n, right? Odd. If it's odd, it's 8 over 2n. If it's even, it's negative 1 over 3 of n, right? Coolio, whatever. We're not going to do it first. And then the second a of n, it's negative 1 to the nth plus 1 power over n, okay? And then 3 is negative 1 to the n plus 1 power times n plus 1 over n 2n plus 1. Alright, coolio. So like I said, I'm gonna skip number 1 and go straight to number 2. Right. Which we haven't really learned alternating series, but here's a little intro, okay? When you see a negative 1 to the nth power or negative 1 to the nth plus 1 power, you're dealing with an alternating series. Just like anytime you see this, alternating series, okay? And what this means is like when you use the alternating series test is, let's take number 2 for example, right? Negative 1 to the n plus 1 power over n, right? What alternating series wants you to do is look at this and just ignore this whole part, right? They want you to say, okay, from here, now you know you have an alternating series. We want you to first take the limit as n approaches infinity of 1 over n, right? Which is simple. That goes to 0, right? And they say, okay, well, if the limit as n approaches infinity of a of n, which is what they're calling this, right? The 1 over n, right? If that is 0, then first check mark, okay? Second check mark, they want to make sure that 1 over, or a of n plus 1, wait, check that. Yeah, well, a of n plus 1 is less than a of n, right? They want to make sure it's an always decreasing function, right? And that checks out, right? 1 over n plus 1 is always going to be less than 1 over n, right? Because it's going to be, if I were to put a n equals 1, I would have 1 over 2, which is less than just straight up 1. Coolio. Makes sense. That means that number 2 converges, right? If these two conditions are met, then the series converges, right? If any one of these is not met, which we'll see in a second, right? Then it does not converge, right? So we know that number 2 converges. Sorry, number 2 converges. All right, now I'm gonna do number 3. Negative 1 n plus 1 times n plus 1 over 2n plus 1, right? Same thing. I'm gonna ignore this and just evaluate this, right? Now I'm gonna do the nth term for divergence. Remember that one, right? So like the limit as n approaches infinity of n plus 1 over 2n plus 1. And here's why. Because look, because if I take the nth, if I do the limit, it's infinity over infinity, so I do L'Hopital, so I end up with 1 over 2, right? And because this is not equal to 0, it automatically diverges. Oh, what am I doing? No, look, okay. Sorry. You're taking the limit because of this. Because you know it's an alternating series. Ignore everything I said about it being an nth term for divergence. Sorry, that was wrong. That was straight up wrong. You're taking the limit because it's one of the prerequisites up here, right? And so because this is 1/2 and it does not equal to 0, you automatically know that 2 diverges, right? I mean, so 3 diverges. So 3 is off the table, right? I mean, and knowing that 3 isn't an option only gets rid of C and E, right? And knowing that 2 is an answer only gets rid of A, right? So now we're going to look at number 1. Now, okay. My thought process behind as to why 1 isn't convergent is because there's 2 things, right? There are 2 A events, right? Essentially, there are 2 A events, right? So it's weird to kind of like take the limit of A event when there's 2 things associated with A event, right? Which is kind of weird. I mean, you can definitely take the limit of them separately. So here's my second thing, right? Neither one of these fits this requirement. None of them are like that. Not even this one, because this one, even if you move the negative on the bottom, the negative would have to be outside the parentheses. It wouldn't be like this. So you wouldn't even be able to apply alternating series to this question. So that's why I think that that's divergent, right? And I mean, I wish I could have a solid answer, but that's the best I got.